What's up, YouTube? My name is Max God the Tracks, the streamer who plays decks poorly, so you don't have to. Today, I have for you an Akshan Lee Sin deck. I had a ton of success with this list in Masters. I consider myself a pretty good Lee Sin player. In tournaments, I have a very, very high win rate with this deck. When I can bring it in lineups, I usually do. Here, you can see I have a 70% win rate with it. There's a couple reasons you're bad at playing Lee Sin. One is you don't tech it properly on ladder for aggro. Two is you're just anxious to get to your win con, or number three is you just don't have enough patience in general. You're just like being too aggressive with your cards. You're burning spells when you don't have the resources to, and you just need to literally just be patient. It's a very slow deck when it comes down to it. You have to be really careful, and you have to think about what your opponent's doing a lot of the time. So it's really hard to avoid those pitfalls. But here I'm going to take us through some games, explain to you why I made the decisions I made, show you where I made my misplays, and yeah, so you can have some success with this deck for yourself on the ladder. And I hope you enjoy. So the first deck I have for you here is we're playing against Plunder. We get a really good start. Our opening hand, Lee Sin, Akshan, Disciple, Nopify. I honestly am like, I can use the Nopify to deny Plunder trigger, which against Plunder is like really, really strong to do. You can see that Shen emote. I mute them because I'm taking a while on my mulligan trying to decide if I should keep that Nopify. Hit okay. I'm like, cool, I'm down with this. Akshan on 2 is always really good. There they drop a Jagged Butcher, and I'm like, do I want to block the Butcher to deny the proc? But I'm attacking, so never mind. I just swing it with my Shaman Winds. Getting that around the parlays is really good, so I don't mind it at all. There I drop Akshan on 2. And they're just chilling. I'm like, cool, I could maybe take a parlay, but they use a parlay on Akshan. I'm like, what was that? Like, did they just misclick? Because that was really weird. I expected them to use it, but it makes sense because they use the Make It Rain here. I just Nopify that instantly. Appreciate my past self for keeping that in my mulligan. They swing in with the Butcher. I'm down to just block that. Like I said, guys, denying the Plunder triggers, because Sejuani lock is something we don't really have an answer for in this deck. We used to have an answer when we played Targon Zoe Lee Sin, because we could hush the Sejuani and then swing in, but we no longer have that. So we just have to beat them usually before they get to their Sejuani Plunder lock. And also try to force them to use their warning shots in the early game. That way they have less triggers to actually activate it. So we get a third Lee Sin there. I was obviously hoping for an Akshan, but that's okay. Slam down Lee Sin. Plunder is not one of those decks that can actually threaten your Lee Sin effectively on 5. So I'm pretty chill to play it down. Here I misplay horribly, and I'm like, if I double Momentous Choice, then I can swing in and hit their Tentacle, and we're going to be good because I'll have cleared their board. And then I'm like, wait, I just used the barrier that I thought I was going to hit the Tentacle with to survive the Riptide Sermon. So total misplay there. Little bit of a boneheaded move by me. And then I dig out the Absolver because I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's all I'm going to need to win the game. You see, I realized there, I tried to attack with Lisa. I'm like, wait, I don't even have the barrier anymore. They drop down the Sejuani, but they're not at a Plunder point where it's actually going to matter. I just passed this out. There you can see my Sands of Time I'm considering using. I'm just like, I might as well use this while it's cute. Instant Sentry can at least get me a landmark that might be decent. So I slam it down. This Sands of Time is a really, really good card, in my opinion, because there's a ton of wide boards right now, especially with the with the Poppy Lulu deck that came into popularity recently. So it's actually super good, especially against that and against Pirates. Yeah, there you see I get a Sun Disc, which is clearly not going to help me win the game. But we just send a big Lee Sin here because we're pretty sure they don't have a freeze, and they would need 2 Plunder procs right here, which they didn't have in the early game already. So I'm just going to assume they don't have that. And I believe that just leads to a victory for me. You can see they do the Make It Rain, but they don't have another one. Shen emote, it's not working, but then I do like 2 at one time somehow. And yeah, so easy game 1 for me. You can see, yeah, it just ends right there because I kicked their Sejuani in, and for some reason my recording ends early. Wow, that was a little unsatisfying, but that's okay. Game 2 we have here against a Pirates deck. So I wanted to make sure to get a Pirates player in this video. This is a bit of a weird one because as you will see, they are playing the house spiders. I hold a deny in the mulligan because it's really, really good against Riptide Sermon and denies. I mean, and decimates. It's basically just like a heal 4 or like a killer tempo. If they ever want to do that, they just drop a Jagged Butcher, and I'm trying to decide what to do there. I'm very fortunate to top deck the Weapon Master, the Hook Master there to block with, and also very fortunate that they don't have a third 1-drop here. So Lee Sin against Pirates is historically a bad matchup for Lee Sin if the Pirates player is capable, but I think nowadays it's a bit more even, especially with the Tasty Faithful that I have in this deck, which is something you will see be quite useful for me in the next couple of games. So yeah, there they dropped their House Spider. I'm like, that House Spider instead of Mirai Warden. I guess they're just trying to avoid the Warden low rolls, but they play both. So I'm like, alright, that's a bit awkward. I tech in triple concussive palm into this list because I feel like it's really good against Pirates, and it's really good for the mirror match and other Ionia matchups. So I think it's super, super strong card. And here you see me go to just block the 1-drops. I'm not too worried about damage at this point because I have the deny up, and they don't really have that much in their hand left. So I'm like, we should be good to just kind of swing out this game and win. We might get like pretty low in health, but it should be fine. I feel like I'm in control mostly. There they take a pass, and I'm like, cool. I top deck another palm, which is pretty lucky as well. Decide to stun the Mirai Warden because I don't really care. I want to block the good units here, and Mirai Warden is obviously not the good units. There they make it rain. I'm like, that's probably good enough for my deny. So I'm pretty happy to just keep my 3/1s alive, and that heals me essentially the same damage it would have healed me by blocking or Sermon or Decimate. And yeah, we take those blocks there pretty good. Next turn, I'm like, I'm gonna need something to hopefully take out the Misfortune. You see there, I get a second Rite of Calling. I'm like, sure, I'll just use it now, try to get Lee Sin. I do not get Lee Sin. I'm like, that's very awkward. Slap down my Akshan, and I'm like, cool, maybe I can use the Warlord's Horde to find the Lee Sin with the Predict function. And that is probably what I dig for. They Riptide Sermon me there, and I'm like, that does not feel great. But if I can get the Lee Sin off either the Rite of Calling or the Predict, I should be fine. Another option that I'm considering here is using the Relic of Power to get a Sandstone Charger and then do another Rite of Calling on the Sandstone Charger to guarantee I get a Lee Sin. But I'm like, if I miss the Lee Sin off this Predict, I can just use my mana to get the Lee Sin, so it's not a big deal. And here you see I do miss the Lee Sin, but I'm like, alright, I guess I'll just take Deep Med to either dig for healing spells or another deny, and that will work out fine. If I get a third Akshan here, I'm like, I will probably be screwed, but thankfully I do get the Lee Sin. Chop him down, and I unfortunately don't have him leveled yet, so we just Wuju style and swing into that MF. The good thing here is that I had a pretty good read that they don't have Fervor. If they did have Fervor, that would have been a lot riskier of a play, but the way they'd been playing up to that point just indicated to me that they probably didn't, and I get super lucky with a clutch Sands of Time top deck here. So I'm like, oh wait, that's actually sick as hell. So yeah, I decided to use it. And then one thing to note is that we don't want to block the tentacles here, even though that may block the most damage. We cannot afford to lose our Lee Sin if they have the burst spell that would grow their tentacles. So I'm like, I'll just block the rear guard. That's fine. I already know they don't have Fervor, so Lee Sin's not in danger. We count down our landmark here, give him barrier. They Riptide Sermon Lee Sin, and I'm like, that is perfectly fine with me because they're only putting me down to like 2 health, and if they top deck a Fervor, they are just really good players, and there's really nothing I can do about that. Here you're gonna see, I believe that I just pass out the turn because I don't need to Darken Bloodletter Lee because it doesn't actually help me get to the OTK, and I get the Fountain of Power the next turn anyways. And you see I just Shield of Sentinels because I got the Ionian Telstone to heal just in case they have Fervor. And one thing to note is that I drag the Tentacle because the Tentacle can't get Fervored away, so it's a guaranteed OTK, because if they Fervor away the Mirai Warden or the other card, then I have to deal with them for another turn. Might not beat them. Even though I had the heal to survive, it would have just given them another turn to top deck and potentially beat me right here. So yeah, good thing to note right there was that you want to kick usually the largest unit they have, because it's the hardest one for them to remove and like actually prevent you from kicking. So yeah, here is a game against talented player Henneke on a really old deck in the Ziggs Talia. So I'm like, to be honest, I think this is probably going to be a relatively easy matchup. I might want to keep one Tasty Faithful because the deck can be kind of aggressive with the Ziggs, with the Talia. Like, those are both really high power and just like damage outputting units. So you see I just mulligan one of them away. And they say the test of a Lee Sin player is, do they win when they don't have their Lee Sin? So here you're going to see that come to play, because I am definitely going to struggle to find my Lees in this matchup. And like I said, this is just like the test of, can you weather the storm? Can you find your other win cons? Can you, because like Lee Sin does not have to win with Lee Sin. They can use Zolani, they can use Absolver on other units. It's actually quite a strong deck even without that card. It's just like the icing on top of the cake. There I'm like, whoa, I did not expect my Akshan to die. They're using some new technology with the drop the bomb, and they swing in with the 3-1 just to get some damage in. They could have just chilled and tried to kill my second Akshan, but they probably didn't expect me to have that. There I drop a Pan of Pain onto him because I'm like, cool, I'll just get him big, and then, you know, we can get our Warlord's Horde later and be fine. There they drop Talia, and I'm like, whoa, this is actually getting like scary, because, you know, they're already in a place where I'm at 17 health and they're doing like 10 damage to me next turn if I can't block Talia. So I deep med there to try to find a concussive palm, one of my 3, but I do not find it. I get double Absolver, and I'm kind of bricked up with the damage spells here. I get a second deny, which I'm low-key considering like, dang, did I want to arrive negation so I could have predicted all these stones? But you know, it's kind of irrelevant. There I drop an Absolver on Lee to level my Horde and get one more proc on it. I mean, onto my Akshan, but I'm not sure that made the most sense. It definitely was important to protect it against the 3-1, but I'm not like positive that we need to use that spell over the Wuju style. And they drop an Absolver of their own, which is still going to kill me. So here I'm trying to figure out what to do. They dropped a second piece of the Absolver onto their 7-3 now, and I'm like, oh, that's really awkward. I guess I'll just Wuju style to protect him and get my Warlord's Horde down. And when I say protect him, I mean my Nexus health, because Akshan is still gonna die. I think I miscalculated that, to be totally honest, and I was like, that's not good. So yeah, we just pass it out. With our remaining 3 mana, we could drop the Tasty Faithfolk immediately, but our Tasties are super valuable and we don't want to put them into any danger. Instead, they unleashed energy, and I'm like, whoa, we're still going down to 1 health here. That is really not good. But we're to the point where they're below the Poke Stick, so they can't actually deal that 1 health on this turn. So I'm like, that should be fine. We can just Relic of Power, see what we get. I see the Sands of Time, and I'm like, that's pretty decent, because it will proc our Warlord's Horde with the instant sentry. But I'm not sure we're going to be able to afford to use that, so I just skip it and try to dig for Lee Sin, because I could definitely just go for the OTK next turn and be fine. Like, I could just say, okay, you probably don't have Poke Sticks. Most Talia Ziggs lists don't run too many of that. But instead, I just skip, get the Tasty Faithful, drop it down. Because they tapped out a mana, I'm like, that's fine. There you see a momentous choice, and I'm like, that's really good. I think I can just afford to drop my second Faithfolk and swing in with both of them and actually heal up a lot more. And this is where the age of Talia Ziggs kind of is its burden. They try to do a second drop the bomb, so I'm like, I could Notify that, but they might be baiting me into Notifying that instead of the Nexus, or like denying it or whatever. So I should probably, no, instead of Notifying the Poke Stick, that would kill the Nexus. I don't know if I explained that correctly, but basically I'm trying to hold up Notify for their Poke Stick just in case they play it. I don't know whether or not they do. I decided to just momentous choice my Faithfolk. Pretty sure that made enough sense to justify. I got my Warlord's Horde down to 2, and then we swing in with both our Faithfolks. They block with Talia, and I'm like, do I want to kill Talia? Probably not. I'm already back up to 9 health. this is plenty to survive with, and instead I'll just darken Bloodletter my Faithfolk. And then if they try to kill me, I should be fine on the next turn. They already used a lot of their aggressive spells, and I get my Warlord's Horde on the open, and luckily there I draw a Concussive Palm, so I'm like, cool, this is not even killing me, but if it was, I can just stun them. I do definitely want to protect my Faithfolk, so that's really nice. And there I'm going to Fountain of Power and try to dig for Lee Sin, because, you know, that's obviously my win con at this point. Instead, I get a second Akshan, and I'm like, alright, I guess I'll take it. And then I realized, wait, I could actually swing next turn with Absolver and kill them. So I dropped a Pen of Pain on Akshan. I'm like, I'm probably just going for lethal next turn with this Absolver. I don't really see why I shouldn't try. I was considering playing the Tellstone to heal my Nexus there, considering it was free, but I was like, it's not really worth it. I have plenty of mana at this point to kind of use these spells at my own leisure, so I don't need to rush that out just in case the Tellstone could be more useful as a Homecoming or even a Stand United to go for lethal. So here you see they block, I slam Absolver. I'm like, cool, just stack up the Overwhelm onto this Faithfolk, and that should be good. We're doing 11 damage at this point, so yeah, they Absolver back to try to protect their Nexus, put me down to 9, and I just Wuju style. And yeah, you see I don't want to Wuju style the Tasty Faithfolk, because it doesn't do me any good to stack all the health and damage onto one unit. You much rather spread it out accordingly. And here for our fourth and final game, we're playing against Wiggly Wombat's Cameron Hanzo, very talented player, probably like the best Thralls player in history. But yeah, regardless, Thralls are no longer good, so we'll see how Cameron does with the new Lee Sin, Nami, Ionia. I do a full mulligan to try and dig for my champions, which I do not get. That is like very often your mulligan, unless you're playing against pirates. Like, your champions are pretty much the only thing that matter. Like, you'll figure it out and be able to survive in other ways. So there we see Vestayan Disciples trade with each other. I think that was a good play. It does set me up to not have mine, and I'm not sure how good that is. But if they're using theirs to block with multiple times, it gets really dicey. And I Concussive Palm there to try to prevent them from actually using their palm, their disciple, and then I get a Akshan with my palm thing, drop the Akshan down immediately, and I have that deep med that I can use, which I'm pretty happy to. I'm actually putting the Akshan in danger here if I do use the deep med, but I figure if they were going to use the drop the hook thing to kill Akshan, they would have already done it. So there I make a bit of a misplay by trying to block this tentacle and not just accepting this damage. So I momentous choice, because I'm like, it'll be helpful to get my landmark down, and I'm planning a Sands of Time turn anyways, so I'm like, this will be useful. They actually Wuju style their tentacle, which I did not expect. Kind of forgot that they had their own buffs without Nami, so I Wuju style my own, and I'm like, all right, let's protect this Akshan, because I would really like to get the Warlord's Horde with it. And they I've Nagakaboros, and I'm like, gosh, dang it, that is not good to lose your Akshan before you get the Warlord's Sword. So I'm in a bit of a precarious position. I probably just drop Lee Sin here, because, you know, they, like I said, these Bilgewater decks don't have any way to actually deal with them. So I'm fairly certain that's what I end up doing. I draw two momentous choices this game without actually having a weapon to proc it, so that's a very slight bit of misfortune. But the Shaman wins this turn, trying to play it pretty passively, because we've been having a lot of back and forth this game already, to the point where, like, they might not even have Nami is what I expect, but they still probably want to like bank those Nami mana. And here, because they don't have 5 health, I know they can't go for Homecoming, so I'm pretty down to just level Lee Sin and swing in with him and put their Nexus down to like, what, 13, which is perfect for my Absolver. It makes me not have to reach too much with my Absolvers. I predict, and I'm like, I will just skip this, because I'm digging for either an Akshan or a Deny, like my second Deny, and I end up getting a Sonic Wave. So I think there might have been a misplay. I probably should have got my Deep Med, which would have more effectively gotten me those spells that I actually needed. But yeah, I was really being greedy and trying to make up for my earlier misplay where I inted my Akshan away. So that was another like kind of sunken cost fallacy where I'm like, I really need that Akshan still because I want to use the Sands of Time, but in reality I really didn't need to use it at all. So very silly that I ended up going for that skip there. Definitely should have just got the deep med. They don't do anything with their turn. I'm like, cool, I'll just use this Absolver, try to kill Lee Sin. I have a deny to back it up, so there's a very good chance that this is gonna work, assuming they don't have to waste to make Lee Sin bounce to my hand like Homecoming. But they do end up having their deny here, so I'm like, dang, okay, that puts my back up against the wall, especially if they have a Nami to try to kill me with on the following turn. Instead, I'm like, okay, I'll go for Vakurian Vagabond here. That's something I can actually use my Sands of Time with, and then it'll allow me to dig for that second deny, because I'll probably need another one to be able to get in with Lee Sin there and the future turns. So they're very wide at this point, and I'm like, this is sketchy. But you know, we're just gonna hope for the best. We also need our second Absolver here, so I'm like, bro, we are kind of have our back up against the wall. I don't even have my Lee Sin down. They're about to level theirs. They do a momentous choice on their little Vastayan Disciple, buff their whole board, and drag my Vakurian Vagabond. And this point I'm like, yo, I might literally die this turn, but I try to survive with this Sands of Time and put them down there. They just accept this as it effectively reduced 10 damage, and they don't have enough I guess spells there to get that 10 damage back. And here we see how easy it is to level our landmarks with Momentous Choice. Like, we just played that last turn and we're already going to level it on this turn with Lee Sin. And thank goodness we drew our second copy of Absolver out of the 3 that we do play. That was very fortunate. So now I can just use this landmark to grab a deny, and I'm feeling super good. I'm like, okay, I actually found another answer. So they're going to need another 2 answers to kill my Lee Sin here and effectively beat me. So I deny that one. I'm hovering the Shen emote, and they have their 3rd Ionian Hellstone. So what's better than 2 Absolver, 2 deny, 3 Ionian Hellstones, and a deny of their own. You see they kill a Hookmaster there, drop an Overwhelm equipment onto their Lee Sin. I'm like, oh my god, I'm supposed to be the one with Overwhelm Lee Sin, not you, Cameron. Cameron, why? Cameron being one of my friends I met at DreamHack, so shout out to Cameron, he's very cool. I end up just doing a deep med to try to dig for a palm, but even if I palm the Lee Sin at this point, they still win, and they're too elusive for me to actually block it effectively, so I end up losing this final game. And yeah, but you can see the strength of Lee Sin. You know, it's super busted. I'm currently sitting at what rank? Let's see. I mean, these were all high masters games, but if I look at the leaderboard, I'm currently at rank like 61 using it, so I'm doing fairly well with Lee Sin, 70% win rate. If y'all have any questions, feel free to join my stream or comment below and let me know if you need help piloting the deck. I try to make myself a resource to the community. I'm very happy to do so, and yeah, good luck trying it yourself. And finally, remember, I am not responsible for your LP until I see you next time. Goodbye.